I'm just looking at Live Golf and where we are today to where we were 6-7 months ago, and people are saying this is dead in the water, and we're past that, and here we are today, a force in the game that's not going away. It's pretty remarkable how far Live Golf has come in the last 6-7 months.
Welcome to episode 2. This is a quick podcast just to catch us all up on what's happening in the news. How you doing, Craig?
Yeah, doing good, man. Had a good round of golf with you earlier today at Atlantic Beach, but we'll post that video another time. Right now, we have some epic news in the golfing world. So, yeah, do you want to take us away with that?
Sure. Yeah, obviously the big news that broke yesterday is the merger of Live and DP World Tour and PGA Tour. It's probably the biggest news in golf in maybe ever. What does that mean? What does it mean, obviously, for us? What does it mean as South Africans? But generally, before we do that, what were your first thoughts hearing the news, Craig?
Sure. So, honestly, I don't mind the news at all from a personal level. I think for players in the PGA Tour, I think they're going to be the ones that are more affected than the Live players, based on, say, for example, Rory turning down money.
I was never offered any money.
Tiger Woods turning down money.
Woods was offered $700 to $800 million to join that series. Joining, though, would have meant losing his membership in the Professional Golfers Association.
And I think the biggest thing is that a lot of these players, like Rory, Jon Rahm, all found out via Twitter that they've merged. You know, guys that have backed the PGA Tour almost probably feel like they've been stabbed in the back now.
I got a text message on Monday night, I guess, from Jimmy Dunn saying, hey, can I give you a call in the morning? So I said, sure. Jimmy rang me at about 6:30 yesterday morning. We had a chat. Took me through the news, took me through the deal, the structure of the deal, what it meant for us, what it meant for the DP World Tour. I learned about it pretty much at the same time everyone else did.
I was on a plane coming from Columbus. I was sitting next to Jason Kokrak, who's been playing a former PGA Tour, been playing Live Golf. I was sitting next to his caddy, D-Rob, and he showed me a tweet on his phone as I was sitting on the plane. And I had to read it a couple times, and a little bit of a shock, and it was new. It was a little, like, I wouldn't say blindsided, but I didn't see it coming. So definitely digesting it like everyone else.
Look, I'm for it. I think it's great. When you calculate it, it's probably close to over $1 billion that was rejected, which probably the PGA has. It could be 2 billion. Who knows? We don't even know which player or which other players have been offered, that amount of money. But we're talking about guys that have been working on the Live Tour and that have been getting massive payouts, and guys on the PGA Tour that haven't been getting that's rejected the offer to join them. So I wonder if the PGA payouts is going to change. I'm sure it will be with the Live Golf backing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just listened to the Golf Channel podcast with Rex and Lav. They're really good journalists who try and stay impartial, but they have more connections to the PGA Tour than to Live. So it is really interesting because Jay Monahan is really the person caught in the middle with his pants down, if I'm being honest, because he was so outspoken against Live and how this will never ever transpire. Us sitting down with them. So I think the biggest takeaway is who's this benefiting and who's the winners and who are the losers, because it certainly feels like the main guys that would have some animosity or whatever negative feelings would be those, like you said, Rory and the Rahms and just think of Victor Hovland. Surely they offered him something. So it's even probably more the middle of the road guy feels it harder, because let's be honest, Rory is from our perspective, a billionaire, but he's certainly a multi-millionaire in American dollars. So you know, people say, when is enough money, but it's never enough. But still, for Rory, it was easy for him to say, sure, you know, legacy is more important than money. If you already have 100 million, 200, 300, 400 million in the bank, and the property and the equity that he possesses globally. So I feel more for the you know, Max Homers, the like I said, Victor is now a top 10 player, but maybe the 20, 30, 40 ranked players in the world who it must have been a lot harder to turn down big money. You know, some of those guys are just making it. We look at golf, but it's the top end is very fat. You know, we see a lot of guys at the top making big money, but there are still players who don't earn enough money to make a living out of it, or who just scrape by. And you know, the higher up you go, the more expenses you have, and you know, so I feel for those guys. I mean, ultimately, as a South African, I think it's great. I mean, I've always been pro golf, but certainly pro live as well. I've never had an issue with any of it. In fact, my biggest apprehension or thing that I thought was hypocritical is them calling it blood money, or trying to, you know, play the sports washing card. So I just think that, you know, that where's that now? The hypocrisy is definitely a thing now, you know, with Jay's kind of backpedaling, as one of the guys in our group said. So yeah, I don't know.
You know, I said it to Jay yesterday, you've galvanized everyone against something, and that thing that you galvanized everyone against, you've now partnered with. So, yeah, of course I understand it. It is hypocritical. It sounds hypocritical.
We've had this conversation on the first podcast, what Liv does for South African golf, or from a South African point of view. I think it's great. I think this probably benefits golf in the whole. And we're talking about, which is a whole nother topic, but we have the Ryder Cup approaching soon. This basically opens up the whole Live Golf players now to be able to compete in the Ryder Cup. And, you know, I think that Brooks should definitely be there in the Ryder Cup. But I think this is absolutely amazing. Let's not forget about Ian Poulter playing for the DP Tour as well, which is fantastic. So a lot of players are going to be able to go back to their original tours and still play Live and still play PGA.
We'll see what happens. You know, I think, you know, if they're allowed to play, I'd like to see what they did with the Scottish, where they put them in their own crew. I wouldn't mind seeing them be in their own foursome, maybe at the end of the waves. But, you know, it's definitely a strange time, but, you know, that's kind of the gist of my feelings towards it is, you know, we're over here. We've been grinding all year. We've been doing everything to obviously make our tour better and be the best we possibly can be. And they're doing something detrimental. So, you know, if they get their way, that's fine. But I think a lot of us out here have the exact same stance that I have.
And I think this is where the sore point is that these guys resigned and now are able to play.
There still has to be consequences to actions. You know, the people that left the PGA Tour irreparably harmed this tour, started litigation against it. Like, we can't just welcome them back in. Like, that's not going to happen. And I think that was the one thing that Jay was trying to get across yesterday is like, guys, we're not just going to bring these guys back in and pretend like nothing's happened. Like, that is not going to happen.
Let's not forget, we're only talking about a year that this has transpired. Like, it's not like a 5-year thing where there's been a court battle. This is only a year and a bit.
So I feel for Trevor Immelman, because he was not allowed to pick his strongest field. Like, Ryder Cup is slightly different than Presidents. I'm not like too clued up on all the inner details, but there's certainly so there's different criteria, and even for DP World Tour. So what I'm saying, for the European captain, it's different. Luke Donald has different criteria. He's less. He has less options. So basically, Zach Johnson has the option to choose some of the Live guys as captain picks theoretically, even before all of this. But Luke Donald didn't. So now, does Luke Donald have that luxury? Can he choose from everyone? But getting back to Trevor, who we're very close to. A friend of ours is actually family of Trevor, so we were so fortunate. Just as a full side note, is Trevor, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but anyway, so we got to go to I just pointed to the wrong side, to the Open last year, through Trevor. So for me, it's really close to my heart. And for him, as a South African, again, President's Cup is actually closer to us and more attainable. Ernie was a captain. We have lots of South African guys compete there. And, another loss for the internationals in a year that, after Ernie built such hype and team and finally really some camaraderie, because even Europe still has some kind of unity, but obviously it's not the same as the States where they're playing for a flag. Europe does have this kind of thing, but the internationals, Brew, that's a really big span of people from many different countries, the Asian connection, all over the world, and finally created identity through Ernie, and Trevor built on that, and then he gets this, sideswipe and said, well, you can't pick from everybody, something we know really well in this country, not being able to pick all the best players, but so I feel for an event that already transpired, but hopefully this is good for golf. Ultimately, hopefully this helps golf move on, and let's get past this, childish school ground. He said, she said, and you know what I mean. Like I think it was getting really petty at some stage, and still you'll have the guys who are super pro live and super pro PGA Tour that'll never meet in the middle. But ultimately, it's good for golf across the board, especially in the future. If we look in 10 years' time, what does this look like? This is good. We'll look back at this, and Matthew Wolff just I think got kicked out of Brooks's team, and there's a spot open. What does that mean? Like, is Rory able to join? Is Rahm able to join that team? Like, it's awesome, bro. Like, we're gonna see.
Or maybe Bryson should just hop over, and Brooks and Bryson can be on the same team.
Look, they say that there's no animosity there.
A bit of a rivalry there. So
yeah, they said they've laid it all to bed, but yeah.
You know what, Steve? At the end of the day, I think it's great for golf. Now the question comes down to: does it benefit the PGA players? Will there be a bigger purse during tournaments? This had to have happened sometime or later, whether people agree or not. The fact is that if you've got a live player that is able to play in one of the majors, and already Brooks has won one of them, there's still another, I think, 3 to go this year. If another player takes it from the live side, then they already hold 2 out of the 5. So. Joining forces just evens the playing field in that sense of it's not this player or that player. But I hope for the PGA players that's currently on the tour that the purse will be bigger, that there will be a better payout for them. And for the live players, I don't know what it means for them exactly yet. I think only time will tell how everything's going to work. At the end of the day, they merge, so there must be some sort of agreement. Also means that the court cases have stopped or halted for the time being, which is also fantastic news. So who knows, maybe during all of the court proceedings, some stuff got found that maybe shouldn't have got found. So yeah, there's going to be, I feel for the PGA players, but I think overall for golf, this is great.
Big time, bro. And yeah, so that's really big, because those guys, like you said, found out on Twitter, which is not cool. So we don't know. Apparently there were 7 meetings leading up to this, and they made a call. I'd love to know what pushed them over. Like, what was it finally? It must be finances somewhere along the line. And then so Jay Monahan has kind of hinted at, or not denied, that somewhere in the longevity of the tour, those guys will be financially remunerated in some way. I don't know if he meant through earning winnings, or if, like, those guys who said no, how do you quantify that? Must there be an actual offer made? And an offer is also not a final thing. Someone makes an offer and you make a counter offer. So it's messy at the moment, but definitely a step in the right direction. And ultimately, I just want them to come to South Africa. So hopefully this means that at some point they come here. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm excited to see what the future holds for golf. And even now, you have to admit that going to the US Open, we're looking at that through very different lenses. And it's a little bit less Live and PGA. And as much as I was rooting for Live guys, I still am pro Live and like Live as much as I do PGA and DP World Tour. I do think that the international broadcasting guys are saying, you know, that that's all gimmicky, but I don't think so. I think it's awesome. I just posted on DP World Tour when Victor Hovland, you know, see that awesome thing after he won the Memorial, he jumps on the bag and caddies for his mate to try and do open qualifying. So I put on social media. Yeah, it's amazing, bro. What an awesome legend for him to go do that. He just won how many millions of dollars playing Jack's event, and Monday morning he's on the bag of a mate trying to qualify. You know, that's just the class of the guy. But so anyway, so I commented on social media on DP World Tour. There was an image of him and he was wearing shorts. So I said, what a legend, awesome guy. And, you know, he finally gets to wear shorts. Maybe the only time he gets to wear shorts. And so I got a little bit of backlash. Obviously, that was a bit of a dig at Liv. But then also, bro, they wore shorts on the Sunshine Tour. And, you know, I'm for it. Like, I think it's awesome. Like, let's bring a little bit of... So I don't know how much the PIF, who's really the entity that's now holding big stakes across all three tours, what they will bring. I don't know. I don't think the PGA is going to change. PGA Tour is going to change the legislation and things like that. But it's just to be great. So the real big thing here is, what about the world rankings, right? So there's this whole thing where those two entities both sit on a panel. The PGA Tour, I think it is Keith Pelly from the DP World Tour and Jay Monahan from the PGA Tour sit on that panel with who decides who gets world ranking points. And so surely now they are not going to be as negative as they would have been a year ago. And you know, the whole thing with team golf, all of a sudden team events like is okay and cool, when 6 months ago everyone was shunning it and saying it's ridiculous and how can you have team and only 54 holes, and which is a thing anyway. There's team events on the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. Not a lot. The Zurich Classic is two people. There's even mixed couples, and you know, like male and females competing in the DP World Tour. And Australia has that thing where the men and the women compete together, which is even greater. And I see that, you know, Liv wants to start a female league, which will be insane. And then we just heard about Rose. Don't you want to tell us about? Don't you want to chat a bit about what happened with Rose this week?
Yeah, so Rose, obviously now on the LPGA tour, she just won, I think, the NCAA, and now has, I think she's the first female in 72 years to have actually won a tournament on debut, which is incredible. So yeah, we definitely have to keep an eye out for her for future golf. So let's see what probably happens this week or the following week with her. I'm actually not sure when she is playing again. I must check. But yeah, well done to her. That's incredible news. First lady in 72 years to win on debut. I think the only other person was Tiger, hey?
Yeah. What did Tiger actually win on debut? I'm not sure if he did that. I don't know if he actually won.
I'm not too sure.
I think might have. I should know that as a Tiger fan. But anyway, she's breaking a lot of Tiger's other records. Like her low scoring is low. Her average score is lower than Tiger's at the age of, I think she's 19.
I think that's what it is. But it's those stats. It's not that Tiger won on debut. It's that she's outclassing Tiger on the. And
he's giving props to her on social media, bro. All the pros are piling in and understanding what an amazing achievement that is, and it's so good for female golf to get a little bit of hype. So the real thing is, I hope that they use it properly. And you know, the problem is, like we see with a lot of these breakout stars, like I don't know if you watch tennis, but I was watching Carlos Alcaraz last night, and he's just dominating tennis as a 20-year-old, just turned 20 a couple of weeks ago.
He's in the semi-finals, eh?
Yeah, I think he's got Djokovic coming up and beat Tsitsipas last night. And you know, so it's a lot of these super young stars that come up, and then unfortunately there's these big sponsors that get involved, and sponsors requirements that they've got to do. So I'm just hoping, and I'm not being negative, I'm trusting that, you know, she surrounds herself with the right people and, you know, gets shepherded. Because we see that a lot of South African golfers, we've got these phenoms coming up, you know, Like Gary Kigo, man, I was rooting for this guy, and I still think he's got the chops to do it, but he's just fallen off the pace a little bit, you know. So every time, so Aldrich Potgieter, our leading amateur, won the Open Amateur last year and got invited to play the Open. Awesome to see him there. Got invited to play the Masters, and he's still an amateur. But again, I just hope that he's like, I felt like Gary Kigo actually had his head screwed on right. Guy from just down the road in Stellenbosch, a DeSalza member, and he actually listened to him on the Gary Player podcast, and Gary was talking a lot of like sense into him. But Gary's also from a very different generation, you know, so it's hard to translate all that stuff. But my point is just that I hope we can shepherd the young guns well in our sport, and especially the South Africans, because we are missing a couple of, back for the last, how many, 20, 30 years, we've had someone at least in the top 20. You know, Ernie was number one at one stage, but with Louis, it was Brandon Grace and these guys and Charles. They were in that top 20 representing. Right now, we don't. You know, Christian Besaiden is our highest ranked South African, and I think he's like in 70th or somewhere there. We'll have to check it out. Doesn't really matter. But the rest of them are all over 100, and we should really have, with the amount of talent coming out of this country, we really should have a couple of guys in the top 50. Now, obviously, it's skewed a little bit. Louis would probably be a top 30 player, maybe, if he had retained status across all the events and still played and earned world ranking points. But yeah, just, so coming back to Rose, I just hope she, you know, is guided and shepherded in the right way, and we see more of it. Like,
she's young, and hopefully, like you said, that she will be managed well. But no, dude, at the end of the day, well done to the PGA, well done to DP, and well done to Live Golf for coming together, talking this out, and making a deal. And everyone can kind of move forward. Let's just hope, well, we think that this is the best thing for golf. And yeah, let's just see what happens in the next few tournaments.
You know, I think ultimately, when I try to remove myself from the situation and I look at the bigger picture and I look at 10 years down the line, you know, I think ultimately this is going to be, it's going to be good for the game of professional golf. I think it secures it unifies it, and it secures its financial future.
Okay, one last thing before we go, because we're going to make it a quick podcast. Okay, I just wanted to bring in a quick segment that we will bring in from week to week called Deal of the Week. Okay, and we got the couple of awesome deals. The Pro Shop had 2 of these caps for $600. That's not bad. So 300 Rand a cap. That was a good deal. Think it's still on. But the real deal of the week, the steal of the week, is Atlantic Beach. They've got, I don't know if it's just a Wednesday deal, but they had the burger and a small Stella beer for, what was it, 95 Rand? And the burger is normally
98 or 95, yeah.
It was cheaper to get the burger and the drink. So go check it out. Great food at the Milkwood Deli. Got to give a shout out to Atlantic Beach. They're doing it right. They're stepping it up really nicely. Course is looking good. And
good halfway house as well.
Halfway house. I mean, I can't go there and not get the burger. So if we play early, I get breakfast, and then afterwards we stay for the burger. So well done, Atlantic Beach. You guys are doing a great job. Just a quick shout out. Awesome, dude.
Awesome, man. But yeah, it was good to catch up, bud. Let's catch up on our next one, episode 3, coming up soon.
We out.